Here are some reminders about writing your body paragraphs for the minor character analysis in Hamlet. So your body paragraphs start after the introduction. Of course, you're going to have a working or an actual thesis at the end of your introduction. So make sure your thesis is really clear. It states something about the theme that you're going to be exploring using a minor character. So in my case, I'm exploring Horatio, and I'm looking at the role or the theme of friendship in Hamlet, and that's just based on the research that I did. You only need one secondary source that's a printed scholarly article, and then your other secondary sources are the two film versions. So in each section of the body, and I say section because you may need more than one paragraph for each of these Roman numerals that I have listed as body paragraphs, you will talk about the secondary sources idea with what you are seeing in each of the three scenes that you're going to be analyzing. And it may be two scenes, but you need more than one scene to analyze. You need to show some character development. It needs to be something more than just one scene to show really in a compelling way that this character really does portray a certain theme that you're exploring. So here again is the outline that I have offered you in the handouts to help you with the whole essay, and Roman numeral 2 is an example of how I would go about writing the body paragraphs. So start with one aspect that the minor character conveys, and start with letter A, the scholarly sources idea about how that character conveys a certain theme or fills a certain role. That's one way you could think of theme. So here's a sample body paragraph, and it's actually a section in the body because I needed two paragraphs, one to be in conversation with a scholarly source, and then a second one to really show how that character is portrayed in the two film versions and to do some meaningful comparison there. So here's my paragraph that addresses what the scholar, the one who has written a scholarly article I found on Alabama Virtual Library, what that scholar says. I need to start with a main idea sentence that's just very clear and simple. Horatio's presence when the audience is first introduced to the ghost of King Hamlet is significant. That's pretty open. You want your main idea sentence to be open enough that you can then offer details to support that. So why is it significant? Well, let me introduce the scholarly source that talks about the significance, and then I will give you more details to support that significance as that character conveys a certain theme that the scholarly article has helped me discover. Keith Doubt, the author of Hamlet and Friendship, claims that Horatio serves as a stand-in for Hamlet's father, offering him more loyalty and support than any other character. Now you need a direct quote from the secondary source. You need a signal phrase or some way to introduce the quotation. So don't start a sentence with quotation marks ever in your writing. Always offer a signal phrase saying who you're quoting, maybe the title of the article if that's important. I've already given the title of the article in the previous sentence, so I just used this simple signal phrase, Doubt writes. Writes is a signal phrase that requires a comma before the quotation. So if you have a verb before the quotation, put a comma there. Doubt writes, Horatio mediates between Hamlet and his father. Horatio's memory of Hamlet's father solidifies the friendship between the two. Horatio, in fact, is perhaps more an image of Hamlet's father than Hamlet himself. Notice at the end of the quotation, I do not have a period. It goes after the parenthetical citation. I will say, however, I don't need to put doubt here. I could use a page number if I had a printed source, but this was an online source without page numbers available to me. So I could leave the parenthetical citation off. If I did that, then my period would go inside the quotation marks. And the reason I could leave the parenthetical citation off is because I have doubt already in the signal phrase. But if you are in doubt about whether or not you can do that, you can err on the side of doubling down and putting the parenthetical citation with the author's last name. If there are page numbers, you have to have the parenthetical citation with the author's last name and the page number, or just the page number if you have used the author's last name in the signal phrase. And then I'm going to back that up with a quotation from Shakespeare. I have Horatio replies, that's a verb, so I need a comma, and then here is the line from the play. So make sure when you are citing the play that you are putting act, scene, and line number with periods. I'm seeing some people using commas. I'm seeing some people using Roman numerals for these. So you're following someone else's guide. You're not following the handout, the Sam Student handout you got in English 101, or the handout that I have given you for this assignment. So make sure you're using your handouts. And then after you have quoted something, you need to explain. Say more about it in your own words. This is the part where you are in conversation with the scholar and the primary text, which is the play. Remember, when you are talking about the play Hamlet, it should be italicized every time. Even if you use the title of the play in your title of your essay, you should italicize Hamlet, even though your own essay title is not italicized or in quotation marks or anything like that. The title of the character, Hamlet, is not in italics because it's just a name. So here we see an example of that. I needed a new paragraph to talk about the films because if I didn't start a new paragraph, I would have a huge paragraph and I need at least one paragraph break per page. That's the goal. So in college level writing, 1 or 2 paragraph breaks per page. In a detailed analysis like this, you're probably just going to have 1 paragraph break per page, which means you may have more than 4 or 5 pages of your actual essay. So if you need more page numbers, go for it. If I were writing this paper, mine would probably be 6 pages, just so you know. I need a comma here because that's a verb. So look, I'm already saying when you go back and reread your analysis, make sure that you look for little things like that, especially if your computer is underlining something for you. You know, try changing the punctuation. Ask your tutor to look at it. You have access to free tutors on campus and online, so please make good use of your tutors. So this whole section, this whole paragraph is just talking about the scene and the theme that I have been in conversation with the scholar from AVL about. And the scholar's not from AVL. I found it on AVL. Don't say that you're quoting AVL. Don't say according to Alabama Virtual Library. Always say according to and the scholar's name, or according to the author of and then the title of the article. Because the Alabama Virtual Library is a database. They do not produce actual scholarly work. They just give you a place like a physical library gives you books. They don't write the books. So now I am talking about the 2 film versions. So in this, you can pause and read this. I am starting with Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet. So I italicize Hamlet because it's the title of the film/play. And then I give the name of the person playing Horatio. So make sure that's clear as you're beginning your discussion and continue reminding the reader which actor you're talking about. And then when you are citing lines from the film, remember you're actually using lines that were first written in the play. So cite the play. If your line from the play has a question mark, keep it with the quotation. Normally, for example, if you have a quotation that ends with a period, you don't necessarily, or you don't usually keep the period. So be careful of that. You want to make sure that the question mark stays and you follow the parenthetical citation at the end of the sentence with a period. Now, when you are quoting or allowing yourself to incorporate your line that you're going to be writing about in your sentence close to the beginning, and then you have your own writing after that, keep the parenthetical citation at the end of the sentence just so that it's not interrupting the sentence. Some instructors may do it differently. I have always been taught to not interrupt your sentence with a parenthetical citation, but at the end of the sentence that contains a quotation, you need to put the parenthetical citation followed by a period. Notice that I don't have a period here, I have it here. Why is that? The period indicates a full stop, an end to the sentence, and I don't want to end the sentence until I include my parenthetical citation. Now here's a little bit of difference. So let me just back up a minute. I have Branagh's version of Hamlet here, and then pretty quickly I start comparing to Gregory Doran's Hamlet. He's the director of the Hamlet that stars David Tennant, and I need to say which actor plays Horatio. So making sure that's clear as soon as I introduce that work in my discussion. Now, here is an example of a blocked quotation. I didn't necessarily need this full quotation here, but I wanted to show you how to do a blocked quotation correctly. Remember that when you are introducing a blocked quotation, use a full sentence followed by a colon. And anytime that you're going to quote even not a blocked quotation, if you use a full sentence to introduce even a short quotation, using a full sentence requires you to put a colon there. But for example, when I say to Jersey replies, which I need a comma there again, then I don't need a colon, I need a comma there because what I have before this quotation is not a complete sentence. So, using a complete sentence before a quotation requires a colon, and the convention for introducing a block quotation is to use a full sentence before it. So, full sentence to introduce what is going to be quoted, then a colon, then use tab twice to indent the lines that you're quoting. Now, you need a block quotation format if you are quoting more than 3 lines of poetry or more than 4 lines of prose. So just err on the side of more than 4 lines or more than 3 lines. You might want to go ahead and block it because it's sometimes tough to tell when you are quoting Shakespeare whether or not you're quoting poetry or prose. I have some details about that on the handout for this assignment, so read that carefully. Notice there are no quotation marks in here. There are no quotation marks in the text itself. So for a block quotation, the block indicates that it's a quotation, so I don't need the quotation marks anymore. Furthermore, here's a weird rule for MLA format. When you have a block quotation, you keep the period at the end of the actual quotation if your quote ends with a period. And then your parenthetical citation includes the act, scene, line numbers, and then no period at the end of a block quotation. Remember, the shorter quotations are different. Now, students are often tempted to end with a block quotation and then indent here. You should never end with a quotation, even if it's a short one. Always say something more. So no indentation here. This should all be part of this paragraph that started up here. So always explain more. Why is this part significant? Continue to compare the two portrayals of Horatio and end your final statement about the significance of the differences or similarities of the portrayals of that character. to the theme that you're saying is expressed by that character.